All right, with Tracy Graziano, Our Threatened and Endangered Species, Allegheny Woodrats is the feature film. It's filmed from Pennsylvania. It's kind of Pennsylvania kind of centered, but of course there's a kind of a macro story here about endangered species, kind of like in this particular film about the wood rats. What kind of motivated you to kind of make this film about the Allegheny wood rats?
So the film is part of a series, and the this is the second episode. We chose a mammal. It's a species that most people don't know even exists.
Yeah.
And the mission of the whole series is really to get people involved and take actions that they can do at home to help all wildlife, so not just threatened species. These stories, they include a lot of passionate folks. Our biologists are very dedicated people, and they really face some difficult things to try to keep these species extant. And so just watching them do their work in the field and troubleshoot and try to come up with solutions for the many things that these species face is very inspiring. And they definitely give us a lot of hope for conservation in general.
So Our Threatened and Endangered Species is kind of is the title for the series, right? So this
Correct.
is your second episode. How many episodes have you done so far?
That's number two. I'm working on number three right now on piping plovers.
And what's the first episode about?
The first episode is great egrets. So we have a nesting colony of egrets actually not far from our headquarters. And the biologist goes out once a year to count the active nests and try to determine population trends.
So this is funded by the Pennsylvania Game Commission?
Yes, I'm a game commission employee, so this
Okay.
is my full-time job. Yes.
And your full-time job is to make videos and kind of like you're making here, I guess, right?
Yes. Yes, educational films based around science and wildlife. Yes.
And where do they usually go? Where do they usually get distributed?
Normally to YouTube. They also end up in visitor centers or in classrooms across the state. I've just repartnered with our educator who is writing curricula to go with the films so that teachers can use the film in the classroom and then have lesson plans available to them to really get the most out of this message that we can, I think, best distribute through a story in a film.
Gotcha. Is there, I dare I ask, is there any political blowback of making this film?
Um, no, not. I mean, we're state level,
Yeah.
and we are actually the state of Pennsylvania is mandated to do something about threatened and endangered species. So we're basically fulfilling our mission by doing this type of work.
So then it's a like a publicly it's like a government funded commission that's it's government funded or is it privately funded?
Well, the Pennsylvania Game Commission is unique. It's the last agency in the country that is only birds and mammals. So over the years, state agencies have merged and become super agencies to include parks, wildlife, and fish.
Mhm.
But we're still just birds and mammals. And the majority of our funding comes from the sale of hunting licenses and then the excise tax on the sale of firearms and ammunition. So we do not get state tax dollars for our budget, but um, we are still an independent commission as far as the state wildlife agency is concerned.
Okay. So why are you the only last state to have this focus on birds and mammals? Why are you guys why you because the other states are larger, right? They have more. I'm thinking California would have more birds and mammals than Pennsylvania. So why are you the last?
That's a good question. I can't answer that. Yeah, I don't know why we're the last, but we are. And in fact, Fish and Boat is a separate agency, and then we have state parks. So there's three agencies that typically have merged in other states, and we're sort of the hanger on. I think it's normally because the other states have merged because of funding issues.
Hmm.
And I suppose we're a holdout because we still have quite a few hunters who support us in hunting license sales. So.
So as a Canadian, I find it because we have very limited, very not many guns. Let's just put it that way. So we're not. I'm limited in my experience with guns, and but I know the Americans. It's Second Amendment. I've heard it over and over again. So, but I find it ironic that you're doing this film, but then it's kind of being funded by gun lovers, I guess, right? By getting gun licenses. Isn't that like I find
Correct.
that ironic. I don't know if it is or not.
Well, the original mission for
Yeah.
the agency was to protect all species, not just game. And and so and even now, the mission is to protect all of the state bird and mammal species. So that money definitely goes into what we call non-game species, because the importance of game funding non-game, it's definitely the money coming in, but it's gosh, let me think about this for a minute.
Yeah.
So all species are important, and
Yeah.
the folks that created the agency back in 1895 had enough forethought to understand that you know to keep the ecosystem thriving, that all parts are important.
100%.
um, so
Yeah.
we aren't, even though we're called the Pennsylvania Game Commission, we still certainly do a lot with threatened and endangered species, and then also species that are not huntable.
Gotcha. Well, I'm assuming the hunters don't go hunting for wood rats, one would assume, right?
No,
Yeah.
no, they do not. No. Mm-mm.
But the interesting because wood rats, as you kind of explain in the film, it's like there's a bigger kind of issue here, right? We're meaning that it's not just about the wood. Of course, it's about the wood rats, but they're part of as your dog appears in the podcast, they're part of the system that's been created for thousands upon thousands of years, right? And things are changing for them. And then
Yes. Yeah.
therefore it changes it's like
Yes.
a ripple, it's kind of like a cliche, but it's a ripple effect, I guess, right? With society. If you affect this one
Absolutely is.
animal, it kind of ripples with all the other animals, right?
Yes, and so, it's the typical things that happen, like habitat isolation, and so animals can't get from one population to another, and then
Yeah.
the genetic diversity goes down the tubes as a result. It's because these animals can't get to the other population. And then there's this other issue that is definitely human created, that because of our activity and development, raccoon populations have gone up, and then now there are raccoons in woodrat habitat, and they hadn't formerly been there, and they carry what's called raccoon roundworm, which is likely fatal to woodrats. So there's that aspect of it as well. Um, so we're trying a lot of different things, and they're seeing success. It's preliminary,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of hope in what they're doing. And the captive breeding program, for instance, is in its infancy, but they've already released some animals, and they're seeing success. Now, this trapping season, they hope to verify that those animals that were bred in captivity and then released are in fact part of the breeding population, and they do that through genetic monitoring.
Yeah. Because obviously there is the breeding within the animals. Most of them are kind of hunting each other, I guess, in a sense, right? Which is in the part of the ecosystem is a good thing, right?
Yes.
So if you don't have like you mentioned the chestnut tree, right? How about
Yes.
that's their kind of eating, the wood rats eating. If you don't have what they usually eat, then that's another ripple effect, I guess, right?
Yes, absolutely. And so the loss of the American chestnut, like this species, is really the poster child for the tragedy surrounding that loss. Chestnuts are something that they could store over the winter, because wood rats don't hibernate. So they need a food source all winter long.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I mean, oak trees have replaced some of the chestnuts on the landscape, but not all acorns can be stored over winter. Some of them sprout right away in the fall, and some of them, just don't produce enough acorns on a year-to-year basis. In fact, that's been really exacerbated by the spongy moth. infestation because that really affects acorn production as well. So this species, the wood rat, is really struggling to survive through the winter because of this
Mhm.
lack of food. And so the story of trying to bring the American chestnut back would definitely impact a lot of wildlife species because a lot of animals relied on that crop of nuts. But it would definitely be positive for the wood rat as well.
And then so there's, I guess it was part of a disease, like human kind of influence, I guess, of the demise of the chestnut tree, I guess, right? Like, and
Yes.
yeah, it's amazing. And then I guess what they're doing is trying to repopulate the chestnut tree all over the place.
Yeah, there's a whole foundation that's working towards that.
Yeah.
It hasn't gotten to that point yet. There are definitely hybrids that produce chestnuts, and so in the meantime, um, our agency and our partners at the university, Towson University, are trying to figure out what other food sources the wood rat is utilizing in order to perhaps do some plantings around where they live to provide enough food for them.
All right, so let's talk about your film. So then, are they all around an hour? Is that kind of the benchmark? That no?
No, the egret film was short. There wasn't so the woodrat film is extremely complex because there's so many issues surrounding trying to keep the animal from going extinct,
Yeah.
and so many different hands on deck doing different things. And so that story is very complex. And I didn't feel that the story could be told in under an hour. The egret film is short; it's only 20 minutes because mostly what it is just monitoring. So I really have a lot of freedom to sort of lengthen and shorten the films depending on what the story necessitates.
Okay, so you've done a lot of these, and the art of what you do, tell me if I'm wrong, is that you're giving the audience information and science that can kind of get bland and boring, and you're entertaining us with the visuals and the storytelling elements. Is that a
Yes,
fair
yes.
game plan that you do?
Yes, yes, absolutely. So there's always I try to find the story arc,
Yeah.
try to, leave little nuggets throughout the film to keep people watching, make them curious about what's happening, and then ultimately, hopefully, identify with the subject. So I hope that people identify with wood rats at the end of the day.
Yeah. But rats have a negative connotation, right? So,
They
yeah,
do.
right.
They
Tell kids
do.
to
And
watch Ratatouille and then they'll like rats, right?
right. Yeah, we
Yeah.
joke about that a lot that
Yeah.
the species needs to be rebranded and renamed, right? Because there's this just immediate reaction from folks when you say rat. And in fact, the wood rat isn't even in the same genus as the black and brown rat, which
Yeah.
are considered pests and also invasive species. But the wood rat is a native species, and we hope it persists on the landscape.
They're the cousins of the ones who get into our houses and cause chaos, right?
Yeah, distant cousins, yes.
Yeah, but they're cousins. Like so, it's like that negative, like because it's the human narcissistic kind of element to it, right? Where like an animal
Yeah,
bothers us and causes us like pain or some financial kind of limitations, and then so we get mad at them, and then therefore the negative connotation lingers in our system, I guess.
for sure. Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
But if you watch Ratatouille and see what he does and makes magic for food, then kids will the new generation will start liking rats. So right?
We hope so. Yeah,
Yeah. Were you worried about that? Like making a movie about rats that people were going to be turned off?
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, even family members who know how passionate I am about what I do are like, why are you making a film about a rat?
Yeah.
But if you just approach it with curiosity and maybe a little bit of an open mind, I hope that people understand that this really isn't what they think it is. This species is they're fairly docile.
Yeah.
They're not. I don't know. They have a fully furred tail. They have super long whiskers. I think they're really cute, personally. And then those interesting behaviors that kind of humanize them. I think that maybe people might identify with. They're hoarders, they collect things. It's similar to what crows do. They collect shiny objects and they take them
Yeah.
down into their nest and keep them. Bottle caps, snake skins. I guess there was a diamond ring and even sunglasses found once in a wood rat nest. So they're really funny creatures, and they're
I wonder what
definitely
the story about that
curious.
di I wonder what that story about that diamond ring is.
I
Probably
don't
like
know.
some probably like a man brought his girlfriend to the woods to ask her to marry her, and she said no, and he just threw it in the woods. Right? And then the rat picked it up, right?
Right? Yeah.
And then he's got that. There's a story right there, right? There's like a short film right there, right?
That would be fun. That'd be a fun perspective.
So yeah, they're yeah, but so what's your game plan for making these films then? You've done a lot of them. Do you kind of write a script always at the beginning, or do you do the interviews and then kind of figure out the story? What's your usual game plan?
Oh, that's a loaded question. So normally, yes, ideally, I would research and write a script first.
Yeah,
But unfortunately, we're always sort of reactive and have to get out in the field right away because there's stuff taking place that we don't want to miss. And so I'm kind of always doing all of these things at once. I'm shooting, I'm reading some scientific papers and references, coming up with questions. Um, and and then doing an interview. And I usually do, for something this long, I do usually do a follow-up interview because there are questions that are generated, not just through the editing
yeah.
process, but also through the review with other staff, and say, gosh, we really should say X, Y, or Z. But yeah, it's very messy, and I think it would probably drive a lot of feature filmmakers crazy because we don't have a script laid out first. Um, Up until this point, it's been only me for the past few years. And so I'm doing all of these things,
I see it in the
and they're
credits.
just,
You're the cinematographer, the writer, you're the
yeah,
editor.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's terrible. I know. Yeah. Yeah, it's me. And I do lean, of course, very heavily on the biologists. They review
sure.
the questions beforehand, and then the rough cut, the fine cut, the final cut, they give approvals. So um, they are definitely very integral to the process.
But from a filmmaking standpoint, you're setting up the interviews, right? Like you're doing the interviews, right? And then
Yes.
even from a cinematic level, you have to make the interview cinematic, which you do. And then you're getting all this B-roll footage as well, right? Like you're doing a lot. Like if you're the only one doing this film, there's a lot happening.
Yeah, yeah. And with this film, the challenge was just getting footage of them in general. So, of course, I went out trapping a lot with Kate, the biologist. But then there was this other opportunity when they were doing supplemental feeding for the winter, where we put trail cameras out, and I got some really fun footage of the wood rats coming in to gather some nuts for the winter.
Yeah.
So,
I saw that there's
yeah.
the scene. It's almost like he's manipulating the nuts. Well, he is, I
Yeah.
guess, right? For the rats to find the nuts, I guess.
Yeah. So he's like
Yeah.
stuffing it in his mouth and then he takes off. Yeah, it's really cute. It's really
There's like
cute.
the one scene where it's like was under the rocks and he's like pushing it out, pushing the
Hmm.
yeah.
Oh,
Like
the
that's
biologist.
crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like we're
Yep. We're
it's
down.
yeah. It's so unnatural. Like it doesn't make sense.
Oh, the
Yeah.
supplemental feeding. And I know, and a lot of folks ask questions about that, and fair enough, right? But this species is down to so few animals, and supplemental feeding, the giving them something to eat over the winter is what's keeping them alive.
Yeah.
There are only 300 to 500 individuals left in the whole state of Pennsylvania. And the state definitely has probably the most wood rats in the northeastern part of their range. So Pennsylvania is really the keystone to ensuring that this species doesn't wink out. Um, and they've definitely proven already that number one, the wood rats do eat the chestnuts. They confirmed that with DNA. So they can take the pellets from the wood rats and then analyze them, and run the genetics and see what they've been eating. Number two, they've seen an increase in population. So the females are having more than one litter a year, which previously wasn't happening until they were providing a food source. And then they're having more than one pup in a litter.
Yeah.
So that's a really great impact for what seems like a lot of work, but I mean, just going out and doing this field work is so inspiring because there's so many people that show up to trap, to monitor the population, but then also to do, distribute the chestnuts on the landscape. It's really wonderful.
It's amazing that there's all these people, right, who just they're just doing it for a good cause, and there's no ego, right? They don't want
Right.
attention. They're just doing it.
Right, absolutely. And the landscape is just brutal, especially in the wintertime. I mean, these are talus slopes, very rocky environments. And if there's snow or ice, it's just treacherous. And so for people to want to want to do this and subject themselves to, they carry 50, 100 pounds on their back and they hike into these remote locations to save this threatened species. It's just absolutely inspiring.
And you kind of got that heart-wrenching scene where you kind of like they're trying to save, is it they're trying to save one, right? Like the scene where like like they take it and they're I don't know what they're doing, but they're like kind of like that scene where like they put it they put it on the truck and they're trying to like
Oh,
revive it.
on the
Yeah.
tailgate.
Yeah.
Yes. So that wood rat was put under to put a radio collar on her.
Yeah.
That was done to move that one wood rat from one population to another to hopefully introduce new genetics. And that really isn't as viable as it used to be because the populations are just so small now, that they just can't warrant moving animals around. And so that's really what drove the necessity of doing captive breeding. And so many zoos have gotten on board now and have captive breeding
Yeah.
programs. So that'll really impact, um, the education overall
Yeah.
for the species as well to
Well, you brought up zoos. In
have them
general
in that
assessment,
setting.
most zoos are doing good for species, right? Because people think that they're in jail. There's that negative kind of, but they're researching, they're kind of helping the animals out, right?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes. And so we could not. It's definitely a component of the recovery for this species that is critical. We couldn't do everything that we needed to do without captive breeding. And they have the expertise in the zoos in order to, see that these things succeed, and then reproduce in captivity. And yes, absolutely, they learn things about the species that you could not know otherwise. Not only are they nocturnal, but they live down deep underground in the rocks, so you're just not going to see or hear them usually.
Yeah.
So to have them in a captive setting, allows us to learn a lot more about the species as well.
Yeah. 100%. And then they usually like bring like after they're done with the researching the animal, do they bring it back to its back to nature?
No, if they age out of a reproductive program in
Yeah.
captivity, they stay in captivity usually, yes.
Yeah.
It's sort of, it could be kind of cruel to to live the high life and then throw you back outside, I suppose. Plus those animals are older,
Yeah.
once they're non-reproductive, so
They get
yeah.
institutionalized by the like you said, by they get food when someone gives them food every day. They're like it's there's the yeah, they get humanized in many ways, right? So
Sure, yeah.
yeah. And they live, I'm assuming they live longer too, right? When they're in captivity.
I would think so. Most things
Yeah.
do. I can't give you numbers though. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know that information.
So you edit the film, this must be daunting. I'm assuming it's a bit daunting kind of putting like you're doing it yourself, so sometimes you can get lost in your own footage, one would assume, right?
Yes.
Do you have any
Yes.
help at all? Like, do you do a rough cut and then you send it out and to people and
I get
get
comments
feedback?
back.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I get comments back from staff. So all the biologists involved, and then I have a chain of supervisors as well.
yeah,
Uh, but yeah, I mean, I had 100 days in the field for this project and about 300, no, 300 hours. It was ridiculous, the amount of footage. So staying organized is critical. I use that notes line in Final Cut Pro,
Yeah.
like for every single clip to describe what's there. Um,
So
and
your own
it's
you're
it
your own
it took
script
me,
supervisor as well. Like if you're a make that's
yeah,
your assistant editor, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's just me. So
And how
I
long does it
really
take you to make
and
a
that
film like this?
so I started. I can say I started shooting in 2020, and that wasn't the only thing I did. I just sort of
Yeah.
was shooting things as they were happening, like they were doing a translocation or they were doing a little bit of trapping.
Yeah.
But I really started shooting and I shot in the field for a year, and that was the bulk of that 100 days in the field. And then it took me a solid 18 months of really doing nothing else to edit the project.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you do it at home usually? Like you got your own kind of nest at home? Kind of
We I have an
go.
office in our headquarters
Oh yeah.
building, but then I also we're permitted to telework a couple days a week too. So
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha. And you do the sound as well? Like you do the sound design as well?
Yes.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's a lot. I
Yeah.
can't wait to have help.
I was gonna say they budget a student. There's so probably so many like even in Pennsylvania, like so many great film students who would just love to be your assistant and like just from assistant editing standpoint, right? Like yeah,
That could be, yeah. We've thought about interns in the
yeah,
past, but that's never really gone anywhere.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah. Even in who are they're still in school, right? They could need their hours. So I'm sure there's so many. I talk to them every day. There's so many like smart kids out there, like creative, or just like who are dying to do work and you know help
yeah,
relieve your stress a little bit. Bounce off ideas from the new generation. Just throwing it out there,
yeah, yeah.
right? Got big university, Ohio State, right? So right there, right? So,
That would
anyways,
be nice. Yeah.
where are you located? You're close. Where is Harrisburg? Where is that close to? More closer to Pittsburgh or?
No, we're 3 hours east of Pittsburgh. So
Okay.
we're like in the south central part of the state.
And how far away from Philadelphia are you?
And it's 2 hours
Okay.
from
So you're
here.
kind of in the
Yeah.
middle, I guess.
Yes.
And then so you're working on your third film right now?
I am. Yes. I've shot some over the summer and I'm trying trying to figure out what the storyline is.
Yeah.
Trying to write a script, doing everything backwards, which
Yeah.
drives me crazy. But I love these projects, and it's the 10-year anniversary of the return of the piping plover as a nesting species in the state. So we're going to have a big celebration, and the film will sort of be the centerpiece of that
Yeah.
event. So it's really exciting.
And you guys got a YouTube channel and you put stuff on YouTube. Yeah.
We do.
What motivated you kind of send it out to festivals? You're just trying to get some more exposure for the film?
To get the feedback, and it's also sort of my professional gauge for if I'm still producing decent work. Um,
Gotcha.
so my background is in um, a positive validation for
Gotcha.
professional goals. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think you're on your way. Well, you're amazing. It's like what you're doing
Oh,
good there's good, you're making good films that are kind of that tell the story about how crazy the world is now and how we should be paying attention. And if you just like, especially the younger generation, just having it in schools is amazing, right? And then, but you're
thank you.
doing everything. Like you're proficient editor. You can tell that you're a really good editor. You could like you're making these films, shooting them by yourself, but then you're also doing these great interviews, and you're getting them to communicate your storytelling right through the interviews. So that's not easy to do.
Well, thanks. And I'll just point out that I worked with the biologists a lot before I sat down to do the interview. So there's definitely a level of trust there. But also, I have basic science comprehension because I have a degree in biology. And so those things really help. And then involving them in the review process for the film, that just builds even more trust.
Yeah,
So just for folks to be able to be comfortable on camera
yeah,
and just really sort of have a conversation is where we land only if we have all those things in place. And
yeah,
so for me, I want to show them as human beings, number one. They're not these stuffy scientists who are dry and boring. They have a sense of humor, they have fun with what they're doing. And despite the fact that it just seems absolutely insurmountable some days, they keep going. And it's so wonderful and inspiring to see. And it just gives me hope. And I hope it gives the audience hope too.
100%. On that note, congratulations on the success of the film so far. Hopefully we can talk
Thank
again when
you.
when the next film is made.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I hope so.
Thanks.